Homeowners and buyers in Houston are watching closely as the housing market shows signs of warming up. In August, house sales jumped nearly 12% over last year, the fourth month in a row of steady gains. At the same time, the Federal Reserve's recent quarter-point rate cut has many wondering what this means for mortgages and whether the momentum will last. Joining us to help make sense of it all is Houston Association of Realtors Chair-elect Kat Robinson. Kat, welcome back to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hi, Kat.
For folks who want to join in the conversation and pick at Kat's brain, give us a call, 713-440-8870.
So, Kat, first let's talk about the latest HAR home sales report. What do you think it is behind this surge and the latest, the sales surge that we're seeing? Mortgage rates are down a bit, but not drastically.
Correct. The mortgage rates haven't dropped significantly. However, the amount of inventory and choices that are available for buyers are getting buyers off of the stands, out of the stands and into the field. So we're seeing a lot more price reductions because inventory is too high, or not too high, but it's as high as it is. And it is also interesting to see how they can get more repairs done by the seller or more credits to keep the deal alive. So we're seeing it's not leaning towards a buyer or seller's market. It's more of a balanced market because everybody wants a great product for a great price. And in today's market, because of inventory, we can now achieve that.
Can you break it down a little more? So buyers versus sellers markets. Let's say $500,000 homes versus $1 million plus homes. The luxury market versus middle of the road and maybe even lower. Where do those fall?
So I don't have this strategic breakouts between price points and buyers or sellers markets. What studies have shown over the years, and we have 100 years of real estate data, is that whenever inventory reaches a 6-month platform, then you have a buyer's market. So we're at 5.5 months in Houston, and so we're really kind of leaning towards that. However,
explain what you mean by that. What's a 6-month platform?
Okay, yeah, no. So what we do as realtors is we try to see how long it would take to sell our current inventory. So we have a fun math equation that we do is we look at all the recent solds in the last 6 months, the homes that are under contract, and divide that by 6 to see how many months or how many homes are selling per month. And then we divide the amount of active homes by that number. So then that gives us that inventory number or absorption rate.
Okay. I interrupted you while you were talking just to clarify that. So
Yeah, no, I love these questions because I tend to speak realtor-ese. So yes, please ask for clarity.
So the more houses that are on the market, it's more of a buyer's market.
Correct. It is also part of basics of economics, right? So the more supply, the lower the prices, the higher the demand, the higher the prices.
Well, is there any concern with the fact that the supply is continuing to open up?
I don't think it's concerning. I think it's healthy. I think it's really, really healthy. And you're seeing national headlines saying that all the other markets are sluggish. I think Miami, for example, they're sitting on 7 months of inventory. And I believe it was the Wall Street Journal over the weekend said that their market was slated to crash. That's not necessarily true. They were just pulling those algorithms that probably ChatGPT told them. Who knows, right? So I think the key... It boils down to partnering with your realtor because real estate is hyper local. And when I say hyper local, it could be your block, not just your neighborhood or zip code or metroplex. Does that make sense?
Yes. I want to go back to the quarter-point rate cut.
Yeah.
It seems, from the way I look at the world, insignificant. It's such a small amount. Is it truly a motivator, a mover, or is it just too little that it really doesn't make a difference?
Well, I think their strategy is to keep an eye on inflation. It's amazing how powerful real estate is in our economy. And so if they were to do anything dramatic, I think it could cause a really big a bigger issue for what their goals are. So I think them easing it is helpful. And, earlier this year it was 7%. And currently with some local banks, you can get 5.85%. So if you consider the differences in January to now,
So
that is
sounds like
significant.
something. But
That's
we make
significant.
such a big stress point about this 0.25% that I wonder if that really materializes on the ground where you are, or is it the bigger shift of from 7 to 5.5 or 5.25?
I mean, the bigger shift is obviously going to get more people active. However, I think the news headlines and people keeping an eye on what's going on with our economy is going to help people make smarter decisions for their family.
We are speaking with Kat Robinson, Houston Association of Realtors, Chair-elect, about the current state of the housing market. If you would like to join the conversation, you can give us a call or send us a text.
Well, to Ernie's point, and I think what you're saying here is if you put too many houses on the market, you don't want to put too much of anything out there because then it becomes less valuable.
Correct.
So that you bring the interest rates down a little bit. So not everybody's going to rush to try to sell their house now just because it came down that much.
Right.
So I think that's what the feds are trying to balance.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree. I think that's phrased very well. They're controlling that balance and keeping it there.
So where do you see them going? Or do you have any intel for us, Kat?
Ooh, well, let me get my glass ball out. So there are rumors that they're going to continue to slightly decrease rates for the rest of the year. And that's exciting. I think we're seeing more inventory come on the market too, which is really unique for, Q3, Q4 of the year, because typically it's our slowest time of the year historically for sales. So I see the cadence that we're at continuing.
I want to just remind everyone the phone number here is 713-440-8870. It's 713-440-8870. You can call or text that number. I'm curious, we talk a lot about the population coming into the area, more people coming in. Are these people buying or are they renting? What do you see more of? And when someone rents, is it usually a step toward buying, or does that say something about the bigger economy?
So I believe that it's both. I think it's a kind of a 50-50 between renters and buyers. HAR can get some great stats for you if you'd like. Now, the second part of your question, repeat that one more time. I just want to make sure I got it.
Do you see that as a pattern of if they're renting, does it say something about are they planning to move into buying? Is that what we're noticing the trend, or do they come here and rent just to rent?
Traditionally, people move here, they rent to get a feel for the city because Houston is so big, and then they purchase. However, some are ready to purchase because they know what their goals are. So it makes it a lot easier for them to pull their trigger. But I don't think that it's a scary thing for people to just choose to rent and stay renting, because at the end of the day, if it's not the right time to buy, don't buy. If you don't have the down payment, you don't have the credit, you don't have the job security, then stay with that rental until you have that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. So I think it's great that we have plenty of options for rentals and for purchase.
That's good advice. I would want to say I've been in this game a little bit this year, buying and selling. And what I've noticed with friends doing this too is the better maintained your home is, because people may flock to it, they all want to buy it, but then they get that inspection report back and it needs a new one of these and a new one of those, and this is falling apart, and then nobody wants it. So how do you advise your buyers and sellers to look at that?
So I try my best to walk through the house with them to be as detailed as possible. At the end of the day, if it's broke, fix it. If it has fingerprints on it, clean it or paint it. Those are just the bare minimum. And ideally, we all are doing maintenance every day in our home. Those magic erasers are fantastic for fingerprints. I have a 10-year-old, so I need that, right? So those maintenance pieces are huge. You also need a budget for replacing roofs, because that is a very sticky wicket for getting new insurance policies on homes now. So roofs that are older than 10 years old traditionally will need to be replaced before you sell. That's an important data point. Also, your HVAC systems. The EPA changed codes earlier this year, and now our Freon and the furnace types have changed. And so you can't just replace one component of the system. You have to replace the entire system. So I think that those are things that homeowners should know about and be considering that as they maintain their homes.
And something buyers should be aware of.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Kat, we did get a YouTube question for you. Mr. Wright0510 wants to know, is there a relationship between low cost, high inventory, and corporate cash buyers of homes?
That's a multifaceted question. Thank you for that. So when corporate comes in with big pockets with cash, typically they'll sweep in and take those lower price point homes off of the market quickly, and then they'll turn it into rentals. So with that movement, it definitely increased prices. We saw a lot of that also during COVID the last 5 years. So it definitely influences our market for sure.
Do you all do data points of rentals in a neighborhood so that you can tell a potential buyer, be aware there are 5 homes on this block that are rentals, meaning they could also be Airbnb maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, HAR has an incredible tool called Market Insight that realtors can give to a prospective seller or buyer that will pull that neighborhood data and email them once a week, so that they can keep a pulse on rentals, sales, all the other activities.
Yeah, well, we've seen these stories where Airbnb people will rent a house to party. So now you've got a party house, 2 doors down. And I don't know how you keep from doing that unless you just don't buy there in the first place.
Right. So I think when it comes to short-term rentals, I mean, that's always such a hard topic because as property owners, we want the right to use the property however we see fit, right? Now, should it affect our whole neighborhoods, all of that stuff, that's when that personal rights infringes on other rights, right? Yeah. So we have to be very steady in our messaging, saying that yes, we want private property rights, but we also need to respect our neighbors. And so that's why we have our police forces to call whenever things get loud and becomes a nuisance.
Let's go back to the interest points. I don't know why I'm obsessed with that today, but I want to go back there. We have seen such disparity between numbers here. We have seen it as low as 2%, and we've seen it as high as 10, 11%. 6%, is that still a good place to be? Can we put it in perspective again? Or should we be saying it's gone down, it's gone up, we have to ride it like the stock market and figure out when to jump?
So I think keeping an eye on it is key, right? And if we can play the market, awesome, take advantage of it. But when it's the right time to buy, it's the right time to buy, whether interest rates are 12% or 2%. So the disparage is there and is apparent, and all buyers should be aware of how that influences their buying power. But again, when the right time is right, you go.
How much money do you need to put down? I remember there was once when my mom did this, it was a 10% rule. And I think in Canada, you still have to have 10% to put down on a house, which helps protect the whole economy. Because as we know, previous to 2008, people were putting nothing down on houses. And then they could just walk away from them, which is exactly what they did. What's in place to prevent that from happening? Is there some minimum?
So, there are so many myths that come to down payments, right? There's a myth that you have to have 20% down to purchase a home. That is a myth. That is not true at all. There are products that are available for 0% down in different areas. I mean, our veterans, they get the VA loan, which is 0% down, no PMI, which is premium mortgage insurance. That is required if you put less than 20% down. But we treat our veterans with respect and honor for what they gave to our country by offering a loan product like that.
But could a 0% down leave a potential homeowner in a vulnerable position?
Yes, it can, because if for some reason they need to sell,
right,
they may not have the equity to cover the cost of closing again.
Right.
Yeah.
When you talk about the 0%, I've seen a lot of, when I was looking to buy, a lot of these really low percent down on it. but they got you in the back end with a really high percent, but they're saying, hey, but you don't have, you can get a much more expensive home. You don't have to put anything down. It's only this much a month, but they were getting you in the interest rate on it. So to be very well aware of that. Is there any kind of regulation that holds that back from happening, or, get what you can get?
Well, the government requires a lot of disclosures to buyers. And we even have the Know Before You Owe law that was passed in 2018, I believe, where all your settlement statements, everything had to be signed and understood 3 days before closing. So at that point, you knew exactly what your interest rate was, exactly what your monthly payment was going to be, how much you were going to bring to closing. So if for some reason you needed to back out, you could.
Right. But people who are there, they think they're talking to a loan person from other products, not necessarily a bank, saying, this is really a good deal. We'll get you this. We'll get you those points. But if they actually went through a more established or reputable grouping, they could find out they could have a lower interest rate. And you got to watch out for that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I think it's key to work with a realtor, because a realtor is going to be on top of current trends. They're going to have relationships with local banks, and they'll know who to call, who to ask, and understand the closing cost structure and interest rates.
Now, Kat, we also received another YouTube question from Cliff Plans HTX. Says, are there any shifts in the Houston market leaning towards missing middle housing or ADUs?
So, ADUs that stands for an additional dwelling unit. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people have garage apartments or casitas, or they have a mom-in-law little house on their property. It's really not a Houston issue. It's a national issue that we have with this, because our appraisers are given a book that they use to put a valuation on a home. And ADUs have a set price per square foot that they apply to it, no matter what the finishes are. So the home itself could sell for $500 a square foot. But the ADU, or garage apartment, is only $75. But they're the same Calcutta quartz and white oak wood floors and all of that stuff. So there is an absolute issue with how that's going on. And it is something that we as an association keep a pulse on and are working on to make sure that we can take that on for our homeowners.
I want to go back to, if you're selling your home, what you advise folks to do when it comes to, it kind of goes back to what Frank was asking earlier about fixing up. How much percentage should you put into fixing the property, and how much should you think, and do buyers want to buy something that they can fix themselves so the price is lower? How do you figure that balance out? So
the majority of buyers do not want to do work.
So
they don't. So with that being said, it's on the sellers to prepare. I like to use the imagery of a goalie for a soccer team, right? A goalie is going to show up to practice every day. They're going to run with everybody else. They're going to do the drills. They're going to do everything. And then they show up to the game and they wait for the ball to come. That is a seller. So guess what? Whenever you prepare the home for the market, guess what? If it's broke, you got to fix it. If it's dirty, you got to clean it. If it needs to be painted, paint it. And I would recommend that you strategize your priorities with your realtor. Obviously, if the faucet is dripping, then yes, go ahead and get it fixed.
But like redoing your whole kitchen so you've got a more modern kitchen, is that an investment worth making when you're putting it on the market? Or is there an advantage in saying it's down in cost a little and you can go in and do what you want?
I think that sellers need to gussy up to the table and get it done.
And I guarantee your neighbors will appreciate you for it as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Kat Robinson is the Houston Association of Realtors Chair-elect. Kat, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thanks for having me.